Hey everybody, this is Jim Kurtz with Harvest Harmonics, and I want to welcome you guys to today's episode of the Future of Farming Today. And today we have probably my favorite farmer, definitely one of my favorite people to talk to. He was one of our first farmers, and you're talking about the innovators of innovative farmers. Art Heinemann is joining us today. Art, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing excellent, doing excellent. And just wanted to give everybody kind of a background for those of you guys who don't know. We launched our company way back in 2014. The first few years of our company's lifespan was really just research and development. And in about 2017, we had launched what we call version 4 of our technology. And we were searching out for farmer partners. We had a farmer partner program where we allowed certain farmers to utilize our technology and our product at no charge in exchange for running some testing and doing some experimentation, etc. And Art was one of only 3 farmers at that time who ever took us up on that offer. And he was the only person who actually followed through and did all of the testing and measurements and everything else. And some of our earliest research of the effectiveness of our technology came from Art, from your experiments and your measurements. And I still have the pictures where you're measuring, the canopy density, canopy width, and how fast it grew and all that stuff on your stuff, as well as your videos on tomatoes and a lot of that stuff. And kind of just wanted to invite Art here today, guys, just to kind of share his experiences. And Art, I kind of wanted to start before Kaminassi. Like you've been a farmer for, gosh, what, 30 years or more? I'm assuming at this point.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. 30. Yeah, a little over 30 years.
Okay. And so what? I guess my first question is like, kind of give us an idea of your history. So you're farming currently on about 12 acres, correct?
It's 10 and a half acres.
10 and a half.
That's the perimeter, and I have less than that of actual farmable land.
Okay.
Some of it's in easement, some of it's in border zones, and so I have about, I'd say, probably nine acres, something like that.
Okay. And you're growing organic fruits and vegetables, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you started, I guess give us an idea, when you started 30 years ago, what was it like? What were some of the challenges and things you faced as a farmer back then?
Well, I wasn't a dedicated farmer, but I put my toe into it in 1985.
Hmm.
I was actually a fruit peddler. I was buying organic fruit from the farmers in southern BC and trucking it out to the provinces, Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And actually, that's what I had been. I had been doing that, but we moved from Canada to the United States, where I was originally from, in 1982, and then I kept on peddling for 1 year, and then I started to grow things in 1985, and my first garden was double dug raised beds and kind of intensive cultivation of melons and a few other things, But
okay. And so you started off, and so as kind of a newer farmer at that time, what kinds of issues were you running into in terms of like yields or insect or diseases, insects, anything like that?
I don't particularly remember anything other than tomato hornworms. I didn't remember anything on the melons. I did remember tomato hornworms.
Okay. And so fast forward a bit. So when you and I, or when we first started talking together, obviously you've been farming for many years, and What was the thing that kind of made you decide to take us up on our offer and to start using this technology? What was it about it that kind of drew your interest?
I think it resonated with me because I'm a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and music is frequency, and
Right.
so it clicked with me.
Okay, so it kind of made sense that vibrations and frequencies and sound waves could have a beneficial effect on plants.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then so you began doing some experimentation, like I said, and you really started, for lack of a better word, really measuring. We had a whole list of things. I think I kind of think we really put you through the ringer. You were measuring soil tests. You were measuring like how fast things were growing. I think on a weekly basis, you were sending us reports and pictures and stuff. What were your initial reactions as you started kind of really looking at the differences between your regular fields and the Kyminasi fields?
Well, the first crop that was noticeable was the lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
I think I sent you a video of the lettuce and the measuring of the thickness of the leaves and things that you wouldn't necessarily think of measuring,
Mm-hmm.
but it was quite remarkable. The thickness of the leaf difference between the control group and the Kaminassi plants. Like I think it was I was measuring in the thousandths of an inch with my micrometer that's used to measure the thickness of piano strings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Kaminassi lettuce was, if I remember, it was around 19 to 20 thousandths of an inch, and the control group was like 12. I thought
Yeah.
that was really impressive. Something you wouldn't ordinarily notice.
Yeah. That's one thing that sometimes we actually, farmers say, well, I don't know, I'm not really seeing much, and then we actually do have them do some of the measurements you've done, and it kind of really puts your attention, like, wow, I didn't realize that it was having such a profound effect. And one of the early experiments you did for us also at that time was on your tomatoes. You were growing tomatoes, and you actually have a video. I think we still have it on our YouTube channel where you're in the field, or I think it was a hot house or something, or a high tunnel,
Yeah.
and you're standing there, and on one side you have the Kyminasi plants, which were about waist high or so, and the other one there's like this empty field where where the other plants that were not treated were at some point. So tell us what happened there in that experiment.
Well, that was an early planting of tomatoes, which is it was the earliest planting I've ever done. It was inside my climate battery greenhouse, so I thought I could do it, but the light and the heat were extremely low, and so the control plants didn't survive. All the Kaminassi plants survived, so I guess yeah, it wasn't a complete experiment, but it was good to that extent.
Right. What was it that killed the other plants? Was it like you said it was a fungus that came in and kind of got on the plants, or?
I couldn't say for sure. Just failure to thrive. I'm not sure.
Okay. So yeah, it was just so you had a cold snap come in and it basically killed most of the or all of the
Yeah.
and a couple of the ones of the Kyminasi, but not much.
But I don't know if I had enough of the control to be really fair, but it was quite remarkable anyway.
Right. And so I think later on in that year, I think you were doing some gold nugget squash, I believe it was.
Right.
And you had mentioned that you kind of had I think it was a late planting that year.
Right.
And then, but you said that we were running the side by sides, and the untreated, I think, was not able to make it to harvest before the frost, whereas the Kyminasi, you were able to get them there. Do you recall what happened there?
Yeah, that was the most remarkable growth that I'd ever seen on a squash. It's very exponential on the Kaminassi squash, and very disappointing on the on the other.
Yeah,
I,
understood.
I have to be fair though, I have to say that the those golden nuggets did something happened in storage, so they didn't keep very well though. So
Mhm.
I want to be fair. I don't want to hype it up and say that it was all perfect. There's
Sure.
something didn't click there. But I don't
Yeah,
know what it was.
understood. You know,
And
hey, it happens.
yeah,
No problem. So, now so that was in 2017, and again,
right,
you've been using this through all the versions from technology version 4, and then we had a kind of a garden product for a while for that season in 18,
right.
and then into 2019 you had what we call technology version 5, and then now we're obviously on tech 6 this year. But um, so how has your overall quality and production changed since using the Kyminasi, if at all?
Oh, I noticed qualitative and quantitative changes in fancy melons and also in eggplant, and 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 with other crops, I noticed changes too, but there's more variables, and I try to keep the variables to a minimum. And so with like tomatoes, there were more variables, such as any kind of water, whether it's Kaminassi water or regular water. When you don't need it, you don't need it. And so
Mhm.
I ran into troubles with watering last year, actually, in tomatoes. And I also noticed the peppers are very good results with the sweet bell peppers last year. It encouraged me to do bigger plantings. So I'm
Mhm.
getting earlier. That's a big thing for me because my season is on the short side. And
Yeah.
so if I get a few extra weeks, that's a big deal. And yeah, I was very pleased with the results of the peppers. And they didn't have the problems of cracking that the tomatoes did.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
because I think you said that you were watering. Was it too much pressure or not enough with the watering? I think you said.
it was what it was. It was not enough pressure at first, and then I had somebody. I was just gonna fake it, but somebody said you got to bring the pressure up, and so we did, and it looked great for a little while, and then basically we should have cut the water off then, I think,
Hmm.
when it
Yeah.
looked great. That would have been the time to just call it good and just let everything ripen. But I think that continuing watering, you kind of got to decide which way you're going to go. You're either going to continue watering but that doesn't fit my style. It didn't fit the niche that I have in the market. So to
Hmm.
continue watering and pick every couple of days, picking in green, that doesn't fit my style. So continuing watering did not work for me last year. So this year we're gonna do it different. We're going to get it off to a real good start, and then when I can pretty much see the crop, we're gonna start cutting down the water severely.
Yeah.
And because once you cut the water off, they don't tend to crack.
Hmm.
So that was the main thing. I had beautiful big stuff, but it all cracked. Either cracked or there was some other thing. It looked like it was frosted, but it wasn't. Just
Hmm.
kind of waterlogged or something. So
Yeah.
beautiful big stuff, and
Yeah.
tons of it. Just you know, yeah,
Yes. Yeah. If you overwater tomatoes, you'll definitely get cracking, and
yeah, crack.
it's not good for them. But you see, I kind of want to tell people the story too, because this is it's kind of a funny story, but I think it's a cool story because back in 2019, and this was right about the time we were just found out that Fulvio Baumelli, the inventor of our technology, had updated the technology to what we have now, which is technology version 6, and really upgraded the power and the strength of the technology. But at that time, we were inviting people from a lot of different areas that all had worldwide connections. You know, we had a a couple of Harlem Globetrotters, as you might remember. We had some, yeah, Bobby Hunter, right, and Shake and Bake Streety also.
Frank Streety, yeah.
Frank Streety, yeah. So we had a couple of those guys. We had some guys with connections into Asia and Africa and in various places. And, you know, we had this like 2-day summit. It was funny. We had a 2-day summit. We had all these guys there. We invited them for 2 full days. And we're walking them through the whole business model and the product and the technology and the science behind it, everything that they needed to know, because these guys were interested in helping us expand into, you know, Africa and some of these other countries. And probably about halfway through the second day, you know, everybody was kind of like, you know, getting a little tired. Probably was okay. It's been a long couple of days, and they were kind of like, okay, this seems good. I think we'll think about it. We'll, you know, let's you know, continue the conversation. That was kind of the attitude. At that time, we brought out you had sent us a couple of boxes of your fruits and vegetables, right? And at that time, you know, we had our host was you know, preparing all this, and she brought in especially your melons, but a lot of your different fruits and vegetables. And when they tasted the melons, especially, I think that you had a Petit Gris and a Charente and a couple of other of your specialty melons that I think you probably they're the best fruit I've ever had ever. They're like just amazing. But when they tasted that fruit, like their whole like attitude completely shifted from just kind of, okay, this looks like it might work, to like, oh my God, they're on their phones like, oh my God, you have no idea how amazing this technology is. You have no idea how amazing this fruit is. I've never tasted anything like this. And, you know, they're all like, they get excited. They're like, oh my God. And then they're like reaching out to all of their contacts all over the world. And it really, at that point, we were just kind of getting started, and we had maybe 1 or 2 other countries. But with that, just on the power of your fruit that was grown with our technology, we had about 20 or 30 countries that are all like, all of a sudden, like all calling us and wanting to get on board and wanting to get involved. And, you know, we're still in about 18 to 20 countries now. And a big part of that original springboard was the fruit that you had sent us was just amazing. And it converted, made believers out of everybody there.
Good.
So thank you so much, Art, for that. That was truly amazing. And
was that momentum? Is the momentum still there?
Yeah, actually, we've got, I mean, in South America, even in Mexico, we've got several farms right now. We've got a couple of dealers that are really getting started there. Southeast Asia and Australia, South Africa. I mean, all these different countries are all still, India's got probably 40 or 50 farms now that are using this. And it's really starting to take off. And we're actually being a little more conservative because we want to make sure that we don't extend ourselves past, you know, what we can help deliver. But we've got partners in all these other countries, and it's really doing well.
Good.
I guess the last kind of thing I really wanted to talk to you about is, you know, obviously we're still reaching out to farmers, and we're still kind of getting our name out there, especially here in the United States. And I guess my question to you would be, what would you say about this in terms of, like, if a farmer were to ask you, like, what is your impression of the Kyminasi technology, and has it helped you or not? What would you say to them, or how would you kind of present this to somebody who's curious about it, but maybe doesn't know much about us at this point?
Yes, it's helped me immensely. And in quality, quantity, and storage quality, I think it's made a big difference. I've got happy customers, and that's kind of generic. Let's see. I don't think I ever got 14 Brix watermelon farming with good agricultural practices, organic and everything. I don't think I ever got anything like a 14 Brix watermelon, but I did with the Kaminassi technology, which is and I don't think I ever got anything like 19 Brix cantaloupe, like Petit Gris and Charente. I don't think that I ever had that before the Kaminassi. I'd had 18. 18 got me into some exclusive doors. You know, 18 was definitely off the chart already. But it seems like it keeps improving. You're not supposed to keep improving, but it seems like that's, you know, happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's for those of you guys who don't know, some gardeners and stuff sometimes watch our show. Is Brix really refers to the percentage of sugar content or a solid material. So if you take a piece of fruit and you squeeze the juice out of it, you can look at it's called a refractometer, but you can look at this device and it will actually tell you how much sugar content is in the fruit. So if you've ever been in a grocery store and you get a watermelon that tastes like more like water and less like melon, that means the Brix or the sugar content is low. And a 14 would be, I'm trying to give people a comparison. I think the sweetest watermelon I think I've ever had from a supermarket may have been like an 11 or 12. I don't think I've ever had anything like a 14. So if you're producing that kind of quality, then people will definitely love your fruit for sure. And same thing with cantaloupes. I mean, a sweet cantaloupe is going to be, I would say 15, 16. So if you're getting it up into the 19, 20 range, you have a really sweet, tasty
15 is very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Anything above 12 tastes good.
Yeah.
And the herb farm, they originally bought. I introduced myself and gave them 2 Petit Gris melons, and the chef told me that they didn't do melons,
Mm-hmm.
but he said, let's cut them open. He cut one open and he said, these are exceptional. I want them. And so we struck up a long-term serious relationship with the herb farm in Woodinville. And that was an 8. He told me later that was an 18. I don't know if we tested it right then, but he tested it and it was 18 Brix. And so that's what opens the doors, is the high Brix. If you could, the reason I even pursued that is because I just bought a refractometer and I wanted to know more about it, and so I found an article on the internet called "The Great 10 Brix Tomato Challenge," and that's how I discovered the herb farm. Is that they were one of a number of restaurants that were offering an offer that if you could deliver an uncut, you didn't get to peek inside, but if you could deliver them an uncut tomato, field grown or whatever, and 2.5 inches in diameter or more, not a cherry tomato, of 10 Brix or more, that they would either give you your choice of a free meal or $100, or their business, which is the best of all, And, yeah, and so and that's how I discovered the herb farm. And,
nice.
But I have not consistently been able to get a 10 Brix tomato, though. That's a pretty high standard. I'm still chasing it, though. I think a lot of it has to do with variety, and also you need to cut off the water. So that's what I'm aiming for this year. If you don't quit watering, you're never going to get a 10 Brix tomato. So you have to cut off the water at some point. The question is, what is that point?
Yeah, because you're selling them ripe. You're not. Most big commercial tomato growers are picking them when they're green, and they either gas them or let them ripen in transit.
You're absolutely right. And that was part of my failure last year, is that I let someone do an experiment because he was so convincing, and we did a little experiment to do it the way he said, and it didn't work at all for me. No, that's the commercial model, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he knew what he was talking about, but it did not fit my operation at all.
Yeah. Now on the melons and stuff like that, so you mentioned that you were getting higher Brix with Kyminasi. Like what was your average? Let's say on a watermelon, what would be an average before you started using our technology for your watermelons on the Brix scale?
Well, 10 to 12.
10 to 12. So you got it up to, 13, 14.
I'm not sure that the 14 is consistent. That also depends on the year or two. I don't know. I don't know if I got any 14 last year.
Right.
But I never got any before I used the Kaminassi technology.
Right. And then the cantaloupes, you said you got them up to like 17, 18, 19.
Right.
What were they at before? Or were you measuring them before?
I'd done 16. I'd done 15 and 16 without any Kyminasi technology.
Okay. So it's a few points, but no,
But
what would that, go ahead.
It's like in the 100-meter sprint, you know, they quit measuring by tenths of seconds because there's finer gradations. They do it in the hundredth of a second now. So every point of Brix makes an enormous difference in one Brix degree makes it's a whole new level.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the Richter scale in an earthquake, like it's 10 times more, maybe not that much, but
not just one Brix degree is not just a little bit better. It's a lot better, noticeably a lot better.
Right. And in terms of actual overall quality, what do you think? I mean, obviously there's the sweetness of it, but in terms of overall quality, have you noticed much difference with Kaminassi, or how much of a difference generally? Or is it more like it just makes your farming practices easier because you're able to maybe have a little more leeway than before?
I think it gives me a little bit more leeway, but even with a little bit more leeway, accidents can happen, you know. And so the perfect storm happened, and I had a breakdown in the truck, and a miscommunication with the buyer, and the melons got overripe, and this was in the hot weather, and those things can happen, you know, even with the best of plans.
Yeah. It was the old saying that if you want to make God laugh, you tell him what your plans are, and then he'll laugh at you. Okay, well, you know, I mean, in general, I think, you know, again, we've loved working with you over these last 3-4 years, and you know, again, you've been, you know, we tell people that we're really marketing to innovators, the guys that like to be first, and the guys that like to try new things, and you know, they're always looking to improve what they're doing, whether even if they have a good operation, they still want to move the needle forward to see how good they can get it. And of course, as you mentioned, there's always going to be, you know, challenges no matter what happens, you know.
Yeah, even my friend Billy, he mentioned the word harmonics before I even heard you use the word harmonics. He says harmonics is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I don't know if he's even bought into it. I don't know where that comment came from, but he should be open to trying it. He's far bigger than I. You know, he's a big operation.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk to him, I'm sure. And the whole concept, I mean, the thing we typically get, I guess, from a lot of people is that, you know, it sounds like snake oil, because, you know, we're telling people what we produce. I never make a claim that I haven't seen, and usually seen several times. You know, when I tell people a 15 to 30% increase in yield, it's because I just see it all over the place. And do you think, I guess, what do you think is the potential impact of something like this in terms of overall commercial farming? And do you think it might be a benefit to people, well, not just maybe an individual farmer, but farming in general?
Well, I think it will never take the place of good agricultural practices. You can't live on frequencies alone.
No, obviously, of course not.
The plants need some food, you know. And so I could see that in my greenhouse. I got this potting soil mix called organic black gold with fertilizer, and I don't know how it must not have very much, or if any, fertilizer in it, because they didn't really do much until I started to give them a little bit of aerated compost tea. Then they took off. Some of the others did, but because they got into the soil itself. That I have kind of a method of planting my plants in trays with fake bottoms. And so there's no real danger in them outgrowing the pot, because there is no pot. It has a fake bottom, and they can just grow into the ground. And they did fine, you know. But anything it didn't matter hardly how big the container was. This technology was so strong that they thrived very rapidly, and then outgrew the container and became root bound.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Sometimes we create problems that we don't anticipate for farmers.
So
They say, well, I don't know if this is going to grow the roots, and then it grows the roots so far you bust through the container. You know.
Yeah, it didn't bust through the container, but you could see that the roots had no place to go, and so that's important. Always leave an escape route for the roots, you know, and then I think you won't be disappointed.
Right. And have you noticed any differences in like your fertilizer usage or water usage or anything like that, or inputs at all over the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, I pretty much do a routine application of compost every year.
Mm-hmm.
Except last year I was trying to cut costs, so I just used raw, basically raw. It's considered raw unless it's scientifically composted. So I just raw manure last year from the neighbor's horse farm. But I haven't. I don't really vary that too much. That's kind of like a standard thing that I do just to maintain the fertility of the soil. And I don't spend a lot of money on chemicals. I brew my own brews, you know, of aerated compost tea. I got the idea from John, can't remember his name. He's a green thumb gardener on YouTube, and Kohler, I think his name was John Kohler. And he this is so slick, is that, see, it was the brewing of the compost tea to make it aerated, to blow the air bubbles through. And Oregon State University, they themselves borrowed the idea from OSU, but it was less than $10 of material. You can make the bubble blower, you know, just 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch PVC with holes drilled in it, and the only expensive part of that is it takes a good air pump, though. That is, but that I think if you use those two things, if you use the Kaminassi technology, and if you have a good aerobic microbe population that you spray on your plants with nutrients, you will not be disappointed. No.
Yeah, that's something we work with. The guy we had last week, Brian Bustillos with Pro Soil Ag. They sell a commercial product of that with lots of biologicals, and I know you're doing your own compost teas and stuff, which is of course, you know, very beneficial. I've heard many farmers use that to great success. So
yeah.
So great. Well, Art, I don't want to keep you all day. I probably could talk to you 3 or 4 hours, but I don't want to keep you all day. But if anybody wants to, do you have a way for people to get a hold of you? If anybody wants to sample some of your amazing fruit, I don't know if you ever do that, or if it's people in the Washington area, if they wanted to visit you, how could they get a hold of you?
Probably just email me or phone me, and we could arrange a meeting.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll if it's okay with you, we can put your email on the show notes for this show. So if they're watching this, they can reach out to you if they have a need and contact you if they're interested.
Okay, sure.
Cool. You know, we like to promote you. One of the problems I think we gave for you a couple years ago is that you're producing so much. I think it was eggplant, wasn't it, or squash or something, and it was like you couldn't sell it all.
It was eggplant.
Eggplant, yeah. And you said you couldn't sell it all.
I think I've found the way to sell them, though. I'm going away from the big guys, and I'm going with a littler. As far as I'm concerned, they're bigger, but they're like home deliveries. It fits the home delivery model better than the big corporate Whole Foods Amazon model, you know. Yeah.
And that became in COVID, that became really popular. I know a lot of people that started getting their vegetables directly from, you know, farm to either CSAs or their local program. They were getting fresh local fruit. And, you know, I remember when I was talking to several people out here in Florida, I thought of you because I thought, you know, this would be perfect for what you're doing. High quality fruit that's ripe, you know, ripened on the plant, and then, you know, it doesn't have to go through 5 weeks of transport to get to their table.
I don't pick them dead ripe, but firm ripe, just breaking the color, and then with certain signs on the cantaloupes. You can't wait till an obvious sign. You kind of have to go with a subtle sign.
Mm-hmm.
Some are more subtle and some are less subtle than others. Some are not subtle at all. The Haugen melon tells you when it's ripe. You know, it turns color. But the
Yeah.
Petit and the Charente don't make an obvious change of color. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a sign of ripeness that's there, but you got to look for it.
Right.
Pay attention.
Right. Well, Art, like you've been definitely one of the best farmers that I know of, and obviously with your help, it's been tremendously helpful to us in our mission to help farmers grow healthier food for everybody. And I really appreciate your time and all of your hard work, not just for us, but also for you and your customers, because guys like you, I think, are really part of the future of farming today. And a lot of that has to do with going back and finding the things that worked before every big thing become industrialized and mechanized and everything else, and really kind of look at what our forefathers were doing that was really working, and utilizing modern tools and technology to supplement that and augment that. So Art, I just wanted to thank you again for joining us and for being here today. And if anybody out there watching this, either live here or on the replays, want to get a hold of Art, we'll have his email in the show notes. You can contact him if you want to taste some of the most amazing fruit I've ever had, for sure. It's definitely worth it to order some from him. So Art, thank you so much for joining us, and to everybody else, take advantage of this opportunity. We're trying to make this as accessible and affordable as possible for everybody, because our mission is healthier food, fruits and vegetables for everybody, and of course, helping farmers make more money is definitely something we want to support as well. But that's all we got today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Future of Farming today. Stay tuned again next week. We'll have another great topic and another great guest. Art, thank you so much for joining us. And that's all we got today, guys. Have a great day.